Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my dear friend, Ty Frank, and my sort of friend, Dan Nowak, big friend of the show. Good to have you, buddy. Just giving you a hard time.
I would say acquaintance.
Acquaintance.
Yeah, Dan's more of an acquaintance than anything else.
First time, long time.
Yeah. Like, I'm more of a well-wisher in that I wish him no specific harm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's the depth of our relationship. What are we talking about today, Ty?
Well, 604, I guess, which Dan's name is on. So we're going to act like he wrote the whole thing.
Right.
And make him answer for it when we hit him with hard-hitting questions about the choices he made as a writer.
The choices I just made, yes.
Yeah.
They're all,
You might not know this, but I make up all my lines on the spot. Like everything is improv.
I tell people that like my job as a writer is to follow Wes around and write down what he said.
Yes.
Wes actually can't read, that's why. Looking at the script.
You see right through me.
I mean, you're from Georgia, so we assume.
Watch it now.
I've watched the Bulldogs play. None of those guys can read.
Right. Well, I know we didn't do a proper writer's room this year, or you guys. I like to include myself in that.
We.
I know you guys didn't do a proper writer's room, but what is the process, and specifically for season 6, when you guys sit down and say, this is what we're going to do, you're taking the book, and what did you go through in season 6 saying, these are the things we need to accomplish, and this is what needs to be in there?
What book?
Who's Fred Johnson?
Well, this year it was kind of just because the 6th book has a closed ending, so it was really just kind of what are the stories we want to tell, getting to that point, because we kind of knew where we wanted to stop, and also just weaving in strange dogs and telling that story at the same time, and just giving all of our characters the ending that we all wanted or felt that they deserved, whether it be happy or not so happy.
There was a process that happened because, of course, we came up with an idea for what the season could be. It's sort of a general document. But we did that without knowing what the episode order was. Then later, the studio came to us, the heads of the studio came and said, hey, this is going to be a really expensive season. Is it possible to tell the story that you want to tell in 6 episodes? And so then we had to go back and sort of rehash through what we had come up with and
consolidate some things and push things together, at least to get the emotional payoffs we wanted and stuff like that. So.
Man, that's challenging, because I remember when we were going into season 6, because we were shooting, we block shoot, but we were doing the first season and first episode, last episode first.
Yeah.
And I remember we got 2 scripts and then the last script. And talk a little bit about, like, do you guys have to go through and brainstorm and have the outlines, and you basically write that last script off of the outline?
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, once we had everything kind of boarded out, like, the outlines went pretty quickly, and it was really just the last script, I guess, was a little bit more challenging, because stuff you set up and just, like, callbacks and things you want to have happen, maybe like you're kind of working the wrong way in a sense. Right. So, but I think it turned out well enough, and I know with the block shooting it made it a little more challenging, but no, I think everything came together very nicely, and that we lucked out, but also we timed it that way and worked at it really hard to get it to be where it was.
Well, we also wrote in an unusual way this season. More than any other season, we just sort of collaborated on the writing of every episode. The room was much smaller. We were down to 4 producer level writers, and the 4 of us basically just chopped up every episode and wrote. I think Dan, you were responsible for most of the Marco stuff, right?
Marco, Pella, Philip stuff,
Yeah, so Dan wrote
my least
almost
favorite stuff of the whole season.
So the stuff that all of you fans are angry about. Here's the guy.
And Wes, we're like, we don't want to write for him, so they're like, damn it, who has to write for Wes?
I mean, the big dramatic set piece in 4 is the raid on the station, right?
The supply depot. Yeah, that was, you guys concocted that, and just the whole idea of the spinning and all of that, and just like the shootout and Joseph losing his arm. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the more gruesome things we've ever done on the show.
It was interesting because, like, coming off of 3 with the big battle between the Rossi and the Pella, at least from the Marco story, it was more of just a cool down episode and trying to recalibrate, especially with Philip's emotional arc leading towards the end of the season. This is kind of that episode 3 ended one part of his journey, and episode 4 kind of picks up where we're going, and he meets this new character named Tadeo, and we find out like that he has a brother that he's worried about and things like that back on series. And it's just Philip emotionally connecting with somebody else in a way that he really has never had to do before, because he's always just been in his father's shadow.
Well, the other thing in 4 is we really see Rosenfeld push back on Marco and sort of establish herself as somebody who isn't just a yes man for the king. Talk about that whole sequence.
We see her raw ambition in it, because like she's like, I want to be the governor of Syria. And we finally, after watching her like just these first 3 episodes with just how she deals with Philip, with kid gloves a little bit, and kind of knows her place. Here's where we kind of finally see her step into her own by disobeying some of Marco's orders. And even he's like, that's insubordination. And she basically says, well, everybody who's like had insubordination has been thrown out in air lockers dead. And these are the things you actually need to hear. And now that Philip is not by your side anymore, like this is the medicine you do have to take and the things you do need to hear. And he kind of respects her for being ballsy like that and says like, yeah, when we win this war, you can be the governor of Syria.
Medina.
Medina.
Has to be
the crossroads, Medina.
Yeah.
Medina.
The crossroads of the
Medina.
empire. Yeah, the funky cool Medina, yeah.
Well, and I think that relationship, which this is like where she really establishes herself as I'm going to be your second command is this episode. But there's, you wrote that whole thing. You wrote from episode 1 to episode 6. You sort of crafted the whole Marco storyline, and it's full of cool moments. There's that moment where it's in an earlier episode where she confronts him, and he says, most people don't speak to me like that, and she says, then you're welcome. Yeah. And she's just basically saying, yeah, you need this. You need somebody who stands up to you, and that's very carefully crafted through those 6 episodes to create that arc for her, and the way she sort of pushes her way into the forefront. And we talked about this in the room, that she senses the power vacuum. And she goes, oh, there's nobody here who can take this spot. I'm just going to take it.
Especially with Philip. Yeah. Like, he was supposed to be the second in command, but he's just fucking his way across the station. And he's fucking up, and he doesn't have the tactical or like the strategic sense that she has. So now she sees this as an opportunity, now that he kind of went against his father's wishes and emotionally lashed out at him, and now he's down and basically just fixing the ship with the rest of the lower level people. Yeah.
Brett, talk about that though. Talk about the ways in which you crafted Philip's breakdown across the season.
Is the way that he's treating women now like stem from a reflection of his his feeling of betrayal from his mother?
I definitely think that's part of it. And the other thing was, he was riding emotions are going left and right, super confused, but he's also being treated like a god at the beginning of this. So he's just kind of like, I can get any woman I want, I've been doing this, and he's just basically kind of like fucking his way, like fucking the pain away in a sense.
Right.
But you see that in the first episode with his friend, where he like lashes out and he kills his friend, who's basically kind of his partner in crime, and just how does he deal with that? And then he's in the brig when we see him again, and Marco is just like, I'll let you out. Like, there's Marco doesn't really care. Like he cares, but he's more focused and self-centered on himself than actually on the emotional toll, like killing billions of people has taken on his son. He just sees his son as an extension of him.
Right.
And so he's just like, oh, whatever, like if I can deal with this, so can you.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to keep him close, and you'll see as things go on, but he also senses Philip breaking away, which is like what he did at the in the battle against the Rocinante and stuff like that. So it's just, they have the most interesting, like just like how complicated their relationship is as father-son, and the mother is out of the question, and the son chose the father at the end of last season, and now he's starting to, I don't know, regret it, but he's starting to question all the things and remember the things that his mother told him, and now they're kind of coming to fruition. He's seeing that with his father. And
how he starts to spiral out of control is so beautifully done, I think, coupled with what happened with Naomi, but also us being in this business, we've all seen firsthand or had an experience of somebody that's gotten a lot of fame at a very early age before they have a concrete sense of self and identity, and that just contributes to the downfall, to the spinning out of control.
Oh yeah, because like in season 5, when he had that emotional breakthrough with Naomi, and then Marco comes in and just plays to his ego and rips that rug right out from under him. And it's like, you choose me and you can have all of this. Like the world, the universe is yours. But if you like side with your mother, then you're just going to be weak and cowardly, and you're not anything I ever wanted in a son. So yeah, it's fun at the Inaro's house.
Well,
Christmas is great.
You know, Dan said he found it the most interesting story. The great thing about the way we divided the season up this season is we really could let people take the storyline that they were most connected to. You know, normally you get a script assignment, you write that script. And yeah, it has to connect to all the other scripts, and that's what the showrunner sort of guides everybody to make sure that happens. But this season, it really was a matter of, if you were just really in love with a specific storyline, Ryan would be like, okay, why don't you write that one? And from the very beginning, Dan was really into the Marco stuff, and even last season, really engaged with the Marco stuff.
To me, the Marco stuff is just, I've never seen anything really like that on television. Like you never really see a female character walk away from her family, and we understand why she did it. And you see this man who's just kind of just a maniac, and but how controlling he can be of other people, and how manipulative he can be. And so,
well, I mean, one of the things that's crafted really well in the Marco story that really makes it work is that he genuinely loves his son. There's true love underneath that, and what Taya was saying in a previous episode is that it probably comes from a pure place. The beginning of the thing is him having a son and looking to his son's eyes and saying, I'm going to make this world a better place. And then through compromise after compromise, and he has become what he is now. Yeah,
and he loves his son, but he loves himself more.
Yeah.
Because there's I think it was in season 5, I don't think the line, or he wouldn't die for you, but he'd let you die for him. That kind of idea. Like Marco's not going to take a bullet for his son, but he'll happily put him in front to do it. Yeah.
Right. What was the most challenging for this season for you? What would you have to say was the most challenging?
Just logistically, not having a writer's room together. Like we did it all over Zoom, and we were all separated, because I think, and I've talked to other writers about this, how they felt in other virtual rooms, and it's just, when you're together, especially if you really enjoy working with the people you do, like things just spontaneity, things just come and you just run with it and you go, and you feel the energy and the creativity of just like, this is awesome, and everybody kind of gets like a high off of it. So it was trying to get that into what we were doing. It was, because it felt like a little bit different. We can all see each other, but you just, like, that energy wasn't necessarily in the room as it was in previous seasons. So that was just the first challenge. The other, I think, challenge was just not having as many episodes. So just having to get everything we want to say and also make it feel like it's not just jammed in there and like, well, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about this. And so just having time to let things breathe, but also tell the story the way we want to tell it.
Yeah, and how many great story moments in the first 5 seasons came from somebody just jumping up and drawing on the board.
Yeah.
Somebody just jumps up and goes, well, what if, and they start just writing on the board or drawing on the board, the whiteboard, and everybody's like, oh, I see what you're saying. And now you're trying to explain it with words, and it's not the same. Yeah, it doesn't have that same excitement.
And, I learned a lot about my process this year too, because what I found is that if I'm around people that, especially very specific to the Expanse, is that I love the people that I work with. I love the crew. We've been together for 8 years. But when I get on set, I need to feel that I get the energy, the creative momentum. And when we're talking about a scene or we're doing a rehearsal and we're together, that momentum really pulls me into it. When we were isolated this season, where they discouraged us from hanging out off set. And then on set, you would have the crew go in, set up, get it ready. They would leave. Then we would go in, shoot. We would leave. They would come in. And then in between scenes, you're kind of away from each other. So I didn't feel that connection. And that was the biggest challenge this season, because I like to joke. I like to pull that energy in and bring it into the thing. And in a vacuum, it's really hard to kind of work to get to that place, that creative place.
And also for us, I mean, a lot of the changes, like just being up there and producing the episodes, like just, because Ty and I would we had our desks facing each other up in the office and just spitball and come up with other things we could maybe change or make better. And we didn't have that opportunity. And also with talking with the actors as much, just because, of COVID and everything, it just kind of, it made everything be more rigid. And everything just like, we have to do this, then we have to do this. And so you lose a lot of that spontaneity.
I think that's probably one of the things I miss the most is like not having you guys on set. I remember, I love, when you're about to get a scene or whatever to talk to the writer, because especially like you are so good at communicating like what this scene is about and what this is there. And if you have this conversation, you're going back and forth. Also, your sense of humor will come across in what we're saying, and like, oh, I get that. Oh, I see how that's going to be. So not having the writer on set, and you kind of have a question, and it's like you don't have that interaction, that constant interaction.
Yeah, and even just like talking with the actors on set, like, because I jokingly say this, like, the audience doesn't care what I write; they care what you say. So like, if you have a better, like a more natural way of saying something, that I'm like, yeah, go ahead, just like change that word or change that word. That just sounds more natural to your character and the way you do it and stuff like that. So that just, those kind of small little things like that just can help out and put things over the top.
So what's because you came on The Expanse in season 1, right?
Yeah, I've been here since the beginning. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. Yeah.
And what's that experience been like for you on a creative level and a personal level?
Creatively, it's been amazing because I tell this story, but like my first job I had before this was my first writing job, and it was a police procedural or a police cop show, like a dark one. And I was getting scripts to read for like, oh, what do I want to work on next? And I turned down a couple things, and then like this sci-fi script came across, and I'm like, I like sci-fi. I like some sci-fi. I like Aliens. I like Blade Runner. I like these more grounded things. I'm like, why are they sending me sci-fi? And so I read the script, and then by the end of it, I basically said, if they don't get me this fucking job, I'm going to be so pissed off because like. And then I went and bought the book, and I started reading it because it just, to me, this story, like, yes, it's science fiction, but it's so grounded in reality that it's everything I like about science fiction, where you can have these allegories and tell these cool stories, and it's not just about lasers and like traveling at super high speeds and exploring all these different alien planets. It was just people working in space. Like the whole idea, like, these are like truckers in space, like similar to that scene in Alien where they're just bitching about their contracts and stuff. It's just like normal everyday things. It just happens to be in space. And so that to me was really, really fascinating, and just taking on the science of everything. And because I'm not the science person go-to on that, I'm be like, hey guys, I need something cool here. Just tell me if this sounds real enough. And they're like, no, we'll fix it. I'm like, okay, cool. but the one thing it really did for me creatively is just wanting to tell bigger stories. Like, because a lot of the stuff I worked on was smaller thing, but at the same time, you can also have these amazing characters. I think the characters, especially the ones they created in the book, and how we, like, whatever we did to make them more adaptable for the screen. Like, I just found some of the choices were so interesting, and the people, you don't have to sacrifice character because you have spectacle.
Right.
And so that's the one thing that I really kind of took out of this, and just trying to do things that I've never seen on TV. Right. Like, I was telling you guys about how when, like, my favorite storylines are the things that I had no idea were possible. Like Naomi not being able to live on a planet because of her bone density. The fact that you can bleed out in space without gravity. I'm like, let's make a whole episode about that. Or like we did when the stop happened in the slow zone. Like, to me, those are the things that, like, I've never seen anything like that on television.
I remember how happy you were when we were talking about that. And I said, well, somebody would be vacuuming up the blood. Like, there would be a person whose job it is, there's blood floating around, there's a job, they just got a vacuum, they're vacuuming up blood. And Dad was like, that's cool. Like he so wanted that to be in one of the scenes.
You know, what's interesting, what's really interesting is that, because we did this whole podcast, this whole show on Alien, the movie, and how important it was to us. And one of the things that we both talk about, and even Thomas Jane talked about, it really struck us, was the common working man language in space. Yeah. And there was something about that just gripped me and gripped you and the people that see that. And I think that's one of the things that The Expanse does well, and that I really love and I really enjoy seeing on there. And I think that for instance, when we pick up the Rossi crew in the beginning of this season, and they're just exhausted and haggard, and you catch them in the middle of a war. The story is told on their faces of what they've been through and how long they've been through it, and living at that level. And you know, I remember early on when we were first doing like the first season, second season, sometimes you get directors on that aren't as familiar with the show. We don't get this anymore, but in the early days. And I remember I remember some directors coming on and being like, okay, we need to, you should have a wrench in this scene. And they're like, well, logically, like he wouldn't be able to get in there. Well, can't we just beam it? It's the future. Just beam it over to his hand. And they were trying to do these sci-fi cheats that they've used to do in other shows. And we're like, well, no, that's not this show. That's part of the attraction to the show is how real it is.
Yeah, and the things I like I was saying, like I want to do stuff I've never seen before. And so like we've done like just using the science stuff, like showing ships decelerating and flipping and burning. And what did someone write about like the pilot episode where it's like the biggest moment was when the Canterbury like basically just stopped.
Yeah, no,
and it turned around.
The most exciting sequence in the pilot is where a ship turns around and slows down.
Yes,
the flip and burn?
The flip and burn,
yeah.
Because it's this big dramatic thing and the ship is falling apart and all they're doing is turning around and slowing down.
We're going that way now.
Do you remember we went to Blue Origin and we showed a clip from the whole show and everything. We're sitting there from all these, brilliant engineers and physicists, and the only clip we showed was the Rossi landing on Illis. And they were like, "Wow!" and like cheering and like pumping, and it's like that's exciting to be a part of something like that.
Because those guys spend a lot of time thinking about how to make a rocket land.
Right.
That's like a huge part of their job, and so it's very exciting that anyone cares.
Did you work with in terms to get that landing so accurate?
No, we just made it up. We're TV writers. We just make shit up.
But even like the accuracy, the little details. I was telling this is always one of the stories I like, where when we were shooting season 4 on Illis and we were at the bar and the props people had they were pouring what looked like whiskey, like Jack Daniels or something, and it had color. And you're like, no. Do you see any barrels around here to age that? And I'm like. That's a good point, man. I never thought about that.
I never would have caught
everybody that. Everybody has to be clear. And I'm like, that's a really good catch, man. I'm like, that makes so much sense. I mean, yes, obviously the brown liquid looks a lot cooler, but no, that's completely correct, yeah.
Well, it's not a lot of wood barrels like Illis. And it's funny that you bring that up because there's a lot of stuff in that scene that was me jawing back and forth with the prop department because you were on the same, we were on the same team on that. It should be clear, all the shot glasses should not match.
Yeah.
It's not like they brought a set. Yeah. That's like, here's the ones we found in our stuff. So they're all mismatched.
Spring Break 87.
And they're like, and we in the writers' room we were talking about how is Amos paying?
Spring Break.
Right? One is, somebody's got their Chicago Bears shot glass. We were also talking about how is Amos paying for these? And I was like, you know what they don't have? They don't have bullets. You run out of those. Yeah. So Amos, they're paying with bullets. And Dan was like, where's he getting the bullets? I'm like, he's making them on the ship. Cool. So that led to the line where he's like, I can make as many bullets as I want on a ship. I'm rich here. Yeah. I can buy everything. I
mean, look, the Expanse can be intimidating in that way, but what you do is what you do best. Story, character, and you focus on that and you do that, and then you have them come through and do a science pass.
No, totally, yeah. I mean, one of my favorite sequences we did was just the Naomi trying to, after she was stranded on the Chetzemoka, just that, Ty and I would just we were coming up with, because it's different in the book because you can hear her interior monologue, but in us storytelling, we're we don't want her talking to herself. We don't want, how do we tell this story visually of just oh my God, this place is gonna blow up. I'm running out of air. How, I've solved this one problem, something else went wrong, and just keep trying to ratchet up the tension. Dom did such a great performance, but just that visual storytelling from that episode, just crafting that was one of my favorite things to do. It was so much fun.
Some of those sequences are the ones he's talking about where our two desks are facing each other in the EP's office, and Dan would be going, what could she be doing between the halls that she has to do over and over again to do the, and not just making up some bullshit thing of she has to balance the quantum. It's actual things she needs wires. Yeah. But she has to wire some shit together. And so she has to go between the halls and get wires and actually coming up with things that are real rather than just making up some, sci-fi lingo.
And then having the helmet where she's trying to broadcast the message out so we understand exactly, in her SOS message, we, the audience, know, oh, this is what's going on this ship. And then it eventually fails. And so she has to keep trying to do new things and do other things. Yeah.
What's interesting about The Expanse is that in such a well-written, complicated, interesting show with all these great characters, there's no pure evil, there's no pure good, there's all these in between. But the elements are the antagonist a lot. Being just surviving in space is the challenge, and it can be thrilling. I mean, the one you're talking about with Naomi, I mean, that is like one of my favorite episodes, and her just having to outsmart the elements and how to figure out how to survive. It's just incredible.
I actually said that yesterday in an interview when they were asking about, who the enemies and who the bad guys or who the villains are. And I said that the biggest killer in the show is space. Mm-hmm. Space is merciless, man. It doesn't care about you at all. It will just murder the shit out of you. And it's not evil. It's the environment in which you exist. And and the sequences he's talking about is the writers trying to use that, the horrifying coldness and inhospitability of space to be one of the characters on the show.
And just how dark it is too. It's like just how we were just trying to get light and stuff, and like how to do that naturally and stuff like that. And just showing how vast it is. Like some of the sequences we do is like out at the ring and stuff. The ships are like this big on screen, but then they're massive when you see them up close. Like that kind of just showing how big space is and how small we are.
When you getting into this, did you ever think that you'd be working on a science fiction show like this? I mean,
no.
When you started off,
no, not. I mean, I started off with like crime stuff and murder stuff, so like this was just a great way to do something awesome that really intrigued me, and I feel like so lucky to be on this show for all these years. It's been such a great experience of just, like I said, doing cool shit, but also like having these deep characters with these like amazing emotional arcs and turns.
You know, we talk about process a lot on this show, and it's one of the things that we're interested in. But it really kind of reveals, and you've experienced that a good story is a good story, and genre is the decoration on top of that great story. But it really comes down to character and what the story's about, and how that goes. And so, you being able to have that lifeblood of what the story is, and then you just kind of lay the science fiction on top of it.
Yeah, and to me, that's the best way to put it of like how I fit into the show, because to me, the characters are by far the most important thing. Like the science, I think, is what gives it, like, it makes the show what the show is, but that baseline of just characters. And because I always say, especially when you guys are talking about like good and evil, like, I don't need to sympathize with characters or like think that person's likable. I just need to think they're interesting. Those are the shows that I like to watch, where you don't have to be a good guy or a bad guy necessarily, but just be interesting.
Well, and we talk in the room, this is a question that comes up a lot, is, do we understand why they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of making somebody interesting, is understanding, like, he's doing something I would never do, and I completely get why he's doing it. Yeah.
Marco is a great example
That's
of that.
what I was just going to say. Marco, like, I completely understand why Marco's doing what he's doing. I mean, he's not taking the right measures, but I completely get his character in that sense, yeah.
So you're saying you would sling rocks at Earth if you were in this situation?
I'm Team Marco. I think he's misunderstood. He's the real hero of the show.
You guys don't get it. If Marco got what he wanted all the way across the board, what would the solar system look like?
I don't know, because he would be unhappy. Because Marco, I don't think he'll ever be happy.
Up until season 6, he knew exactly what he wanted. He knew each step. He was in control. And then as soon as he gets what he wants, seemingly, then that's when his downfall starts. That's when the cracks start to show.
Because he starts getting bored at the beginning. He doesn't want to hear about like water rations and like having to govern and all these small, minute details. He wants to go blow some shit up and throw some rocks and like pick fights. And that's like, so when he does leave series, he's like reinvigorated. He's re-energized about like, now I get to go do what I really like to do.
So thanks for hanging out. That was episode 4, season 6. It's our good friend Dan Nowak. Ty Frank. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.